Writing a song is like choosing a route to a destination. You know where you want to end up, but there are a huge amount of ways to get there. You could walk, cycle, take public transport, or drive. But whatever mode you end up taking, the most difficult journey will be your first one. This is just like writing a song. There are 3 broad approaches you can take, but when you're new to this, it can become overwhelming knowing where to start. So in this video, I'll give you a simple map for writing your first song. I'll show you how anyone can do this, regardless of whether they play an instrument or read music, and I'll reveal how this can help you to write songs in any genre of music. But before you can do any of that, you need somewhere to keep your ideas. The old-fashioned way to do this is with a pen and paper. Keeping a notebook with your song ideas is a tried and tested approach. It allows you to easily carry them around, add to and edit them when inspiration strikes, and refer to them when writing or collaborating. The problem for beginners is the empty page. If you don't know how to write a song, then what are you going to put in your notebook? You could also use your phone to store ideas. Being able to write down thoughts and record audio means these are a powerhouse for capturing inspiration. Plus you carry them around anyway, so they are extremely convenient. But once again, the issue for the beginner is knowing what to record and then how to use it. I'll give you a simple guide to the songwriting process in this video, but to help you get started with creating and storing ideas, I recommend a website called HookPad. HookPad is a musical sketchpad which has music theory baked in. This means you can quickly and easily create songs without any theory knowledge or knowing how to play an instrument. I'll show you how to use it throughout this video, so sign up for free with the link in the description and we can start to write a song. Imagine that a complete song is the final destination on a map. In order to get there, we need to plot a route. And to do this, we need a starting point. With songwriting, there are 3 main starting points: chords, melody, and lyrics. Which one of these you decide to work on first will dictate the route you take to the land of completed songs. So where do you begin when writing your first song? My recommendation is to start with the chords. Chords are the building blocks of songs and can instantly provide a certain feel and structure. They are also one of the first things that people learn to play on guitar and piano. As such, they give us a beginner-friendly framework to begin with. Now the big question arrives: what chords do I play? Well, you may have heard of something called a key. You can think of a key as a group of related chords that sound good when played with each other. If you load up HookPad for the first time, you'll be presented with the chords in the key of C major. You'll see that there are 7 of them. Each one is labelled with a Roman numeral from 1 to 7. The use of these numerals will become apparent shortly. So which key do you choose for your song? My default response is to use C major. It has plenty of easy to play chords on guitar, has no sharp or flat chords, and uses just the white keys on piano. It's also simple to use if you're composing electronically in software or have no songwriting experience. But this might not be the best fit for you. Particularly if you're a beginner guitarist, think about what chords you are able to play. Then think about how easily you can switch between these chords. Use this knowledge to decide your key. You don't need to be able to play all 7 chords, as I'll show you in a moment, but the more you can use, the better. For example, many guitarists like to use the key of G major because it uses simple open chords. To explore what chords are in each key in HookPad, click on the key button and then click on one of the letters from the wheel. This will update the selection of chords. You may notice that there are choices beyond the major keys, such as minor, but I would avoid them for your first few songs at least. Chords get played in sequences known as chord progressions. You can take any of the 7 chords in a key and play them after one another in any order you like to create a progression. But to make life easier, there are some basic progressions which get used over and over again. This is where the Roman numerals are useful. They indicate the function of the chord in any major key. This means you'll often see progressions written just as Roman numerals. You can then use them in any key that you like. The most important chord is 1. This is the chord your key is named after. For example, the 1 chord in the key of C major is C major. You can think of chord 1, or the tonic, as the home chord. It offers grounding and stability. It feels safe and secure. When a chord progression arrives back at chord 1, it provides resolution and a strong sense of having finished. Many songs will end on the 1 chord to provide the listener with a satisfying feeling of completion. After chord 1, the 5 chord is the second most important. When placed before the 1 chord, it helps to generate the powerful feeling of returning home. This sense of resolution is often referred to as a cadence. A cadence can be strong or weak, depending on the impression of finality that it brings. The 4 chord can also be used in the cadence when moving back to the 1 chord. You may know this as the plagal cadence or the Amen cadence. It has a slightly softer or more subtle feeling than the 5 to 1 change. These three major chords are important in defining a major key song. They're like musical scaffolding from which you can build out other chords and ideas, but are structurally integral to the major key. The positioning of these three important chords can make or break a song. To select chords in HookPad, just click on the relevant chord in the list. It will then appear in the player below. Here you can edit the duration of each chord if you want. Here's how 1-4-5 sounds in the key of C major. For the sake of your first song, you can just experiment by adding one chord to the 1-4-5 to provide some variation and define different parts of your song with the use of minor chords. Many famous songs don't use more than 4 chords, so you'll have plenty to work with already. For example, the chords 1, 4, 5 and 6 could be played the following ways. Once you've written some chord progressions, it's time to move on to the next part of the route towards a completed song, the melody. The most important relationship in music is between harmony and melody. That is the chords you play and the tune, usually sung, over the top. The notes in the underlying chords will colour and shape the feel of the melody. Standard major and minor chords contain 3 notes and are called triads. If you use any of these notes from the chord to play a melody over the top, then there will be no conflict between the two. This is how you make simple, pleasing melodies, and also reveals why writing the chords first was going to make our life easier later on. But how do you know what notes are in each chord? You could search online and find notes chord by chord, but this would be time consuming. Luckily, HookPad has all of this information built in. If you mouse over one of the chords in your song, it will highlight the notes in the melody area directly above. If you click on this melody area, you'll see that the chord selector above changes to a note selector, and the chord notes are indicated with a small blue dot. That's all you need to know to get started with melody. Play around with the chord notes and look to add some rests when no melody plays. For example, here's a 1-5-6-4 progression with a simple chord note melody. This chord note melody can act as a great scaffold. Then you can add the odd non-chord note melody to spice things up a bit. So you'll have 7 notes to choose from, so 4 are not in the chord. Some of these might not sound great, so be prepared to experiment. It's also worth talking about rhythm at this point. The examples so far have had 1 chord per bar and only use quarter notes in the melody. But you can make any chord or note shorter or longer than this. This is where you can really add some character to your songwriting. If you want inspiration, listen to your favourite song and note how often the chords change. You can then copy this duration for your own chord changes. This can create riff-like moments in your song if the chords change quite often. Just make sure you are able to play at the same speed if you're going to perform the song. And as the chords are so closely related to the melody, this new rhythm will carry over to your melody and really bring your song to life. Here's the 1-5-6-4 example again, with some new rhythmic interest and a couple of non-chord notes in the melody. Listen to how much more interesting this now is. We've covered chords and melody, and with some rhythmic variation, you can now write a whole song. But one thing worth mentioning is song structure. If you think of writing a song like cooking a delicious meal, we've taken the different ingredients, mixed them together in the right quantity, but now we need to think about how we present the dish. This is where structure comes in. Structure is the layout of your song and the role that each part has. These roles are known as song sections. These include ones you may have heard of, such as verse and chorus. Generally speaking, the chorus is the focal point of your song. It repeats each time it is heard, often with the song title or main hook contained within it. Melodically, the chorus will usually have the highest note of the song to signify its importance and make it memorable. The verse is used to support the chorus and progress the narrative if you have lyrics. It's normal for the lyrics to change from verse to verse, but the music to stay the same. You might get other song sections like intros, outros and bridges. These are used to maintain interest, set the scene of a song, or end it in a certain way. My main piece of advice for creating variation between sections is to hold back a certain chord for a key moment. For example, maybe the only minor chord you use features in the verse. You can also use variations in how often the chords change to signal different song parts. This can give you variety without using new chords if you're keeping things really simple. If you are really stuck with this, try a song structure such as intro, verse, chorus, bridge or middle eight, chorus, outro. This is a very common song structure and will feel familiar to you. I would use this as your starting framework to get a song written easily. You can always deviate, extend or alter this later on if you want to. Start with each section being 8 bars long. Once you have more experience, you can become more adventurous. But to begin, you want to complete a few songs, and sticking to this rule will help you achieve this. The next stop on our journey is the lyric. If you are happy with an instrumental song, then obviously you can skip this step. But for the rest of you, let's look at the part that most songwriters struggle with. Song lyrics are one of the biggest obstacles for songwriters. The amount of meaning and emotion tied up in so few words can become overwhelming. They become such a big burden that they get put off to the end and never finished. And a lot of songwriters are musicians to begin with, so haven't worked with words before. There's a reason why Elton John worked with Bernie Taupin. There are so many ways to approach lyric writing that it could form a course in its own right. My goal here is to try and give you a way to write lyrics that is easy to do in a short amount of time and produce reasonable results for most people. So if you're a reluctant lyricist, hopefully this will help you to at least finish some lyrics. What you think of them may be another question. All you have to do is set a timer for at least 10 minutes. Write down everything that comes to mind with no filter. The more you can get down, the better. This is best done the old-fashioned way with pen or pencil and paper. And don't throw away any old attempts from these sessions, as these can be used in the future. Completely turn off your filter and just get words on the page. Then, once the time is up, see if you can spot any lines or themes that stand out. Write them out and then start to loop your song in HookPad. You do this by pressing loop in the top left and then adjusting the yellow bar to the section that you want to loop. Then you can work out how the syllables of your lyric will work with the melody. Do the words feel like they fit with the music? Keep doing this until you feel like you have a reasonable draft of your lyrics. Congratulations, you've just completed your first song. Most people don't get this far, so this is a real achievement. You can take longer to refine your song if you want. I recommend putting it to one side and coming back a few days later with fresh eyes and ears. You'll then have a bit of distance from the writing to spot anything you might want to change. This process could be used to write a song in almost any genre, but you might want to adapt it to your own musical taste. What you change will depend on the sound you're trying to achieve. For example, if you're writing rap, you might focus more on lyrical rhythmic flow rather than complex harmony. If you're writing a rock song, you might base your song around a riff, and lyrics aren't as important. Experiment with elements that feature the most in your favourite types of music. This is where learning to play songs that you like can inspire you to write differently. The thing with songwriting is there is always something to learn, and as a beginner this can become overwhelming and stop you from finishing songs. In order to avoid this problem, I've created a playlist that will guide you through everything you'll ever need to write your first song. Click the link on screen now to kickstart your songwriting.